The NBA draft is here. What will Daryl Morey do when he is on the clock with pick number 3? We're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk the confidence level we have in Daryl Morey making the decisions today. Trending in the AM, we are live in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on the STT Sports Network. We are live. YouTube and Twitter, you know the drill. Wherever you're watching, hit that like button, hit that share button, and, of course, subscribe if you're watching on Twitter. Please try to find the STT Sports Network as they try to grow that YouTube channel. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the start of the NFL season. We're at 547 to start the day. So, guys, like, share, subscribe, and vote on our poll that we got running on the YouTube page only. What is your confidence level in Daryl Morey tonight entering the NBA draft? Answer options: complete confidence, somewhat confident, minimal confidence, and he is a disgrace. I have a feeling he is a disgrace. He's going to win this. But, guys, we got a jam-packed show talking all things NBA draft happening in the NBA as a whole. But please like, share, subscribe. And we have the great Sean Barnard joining us at 8:30 this morning. So make sure you stay tuned to that interview. We'll get his takes on what the Sixers are going to do, all the stuff surrounding Ace Bailey, and all the other stuff going on in the NBA, as it was just a couple days ago that the Oklahoma City Thunder won the NBA championship. And here we are, already with multiple players traded, multiple moves made, things happening, rumors swirling around the NBA. And yet the Sixers, you want to just grab a stick and poke them and be like, I don't hear any rumors about you. The only rumor we hear is you're still going to draft Ace Bailey. And I don't know what's going to happen with that. So lock in. Let's talk about it. Good morning, Adam. Yeah, it's been a rough week. Lots happening at the pizza shop this week. There's not going to be a show tomorrow either. Already had to cancel on Dives. We'll be back on Friday with another morning show, but who knows? It's just been a really crazy week at the pizza shop with the heat on top of it. So I had to bail on a couple morning shows this week. But we're back at it, okay? We're back at it. Good morning, Dives. Sorry I'm bailing on you tomorrow. Maybe if you're free Friday, you can come on Friday. This is going to be a Daryl Morey hate hour. Maybe. I think Sean Barnard's going to put a positive spin on it. I do. He's going to bring up Jarrett McCain and Tyrese Maxey and say we should have confidence in Daryl Morey. That's my prediction. Not a spoiler, just my prediction. Wizards look locked into Ace Bailey. Well, the Wizards better make a trade then. The Wizards better call Daryl Morey. I mean, he's not going to be there at number 6, Ace Bailey. So the best bet is for them to trade with the Sixers or trade with the Spurs, and then that leaves Dylan Harper for us. I don't understand. Look, Daryl Morey has had solid drafts, obviously. Ace Bailey looks like a solid prospect, obviously. But he's got an attitude and immaturity issue. And I'm not sure. I don't understand why so many people want another attitude problem in Philadelphia. Because that's what Ace Bailey is, right? He's just an immature person. Now, maybe, he develops into a mature player. Maybe he develops into a star. Maybe this is another Tatum situation where we miss out on Tatum. But are you willing to take that chance when there's equally as many question marks on every other player in this draft class? Good morning, Duck. How you doing? You say maybe like you're not about to unleash hate. Oh, I have zero confidence in Daryl Morey making the right decision. Now, can he draft or evaluate mid to late 20 draft picks and get good picks when players fall like Tyrese Maxey and Jarrett McCain? Absolutely. But picking at number 3 is a completely different story. Picking at 3 is supposed to shape the franchise. I don't have the hope or the confidence in him making the right decision. He likes big, bold trades. I don't see him making a trade that benefits this team. There's no player I would want from the Wizards. I would trade the 3 and get the future unprotected first and Wizards pick this year. I would do that. I would take 6 in next year's one of theirs. Give it to me all day. You can still get a solid player at 6. Absolutely. Let me see. Let me go back to best available. At 6 right now, Knuppel would be 6, but you might get Trey Johnson there or Maluch. You might be able to get somebody there. Go for it. Do it. Get a role player that doesn't have an attitude issue and pick up another first for next year. Why not? Because the Wizards are going to suck next year too. Harper is the dream, but not happening. It's between BJ and Trey right now. Big fan of BJ, but don't believe in the handle, and it limits his ceiling. I'm okay. And we finally got our first vote of complete confidence in Daryl Morey on the poll question. I'm watching the votes come in, and I love that it took 6 minutes in the show for that. I would go VJ over Trey at this point, but I think that you could go either way, and I'd be perfectly fine with it. Harper is a dream scenario. The only way the Harper thing happens is if Washington trades up with the Spurs to 2, and then they take Ace Bailey at 2, and then Dylan Harper falls to us at 3. That's the only way. Marshawn wants Trey or we Ryan. Well, why? Give me a detail on why. Trey is an elite floor spacer, but I hate one-dimensional scores with a passion. Yeah, I think in this NBA day and age, one-dimensional scores just don't fit as well. I want a polarizing decision for the guy. Absolutely, yeah. Give me a polarizing decision. Have him trade out completely. Have him trade the 3rd pick for, I don't know what. I hear the Boston Celtics want to get up into the lottery. Make a trade with the Boston Celtics or something. Like, give me something completely crazy out of left field. That would be trade the 3rd pick to the Clippers for James Harden. That seems like something that Daryl Morey would do. Really solid, would fit right in with the Sixers at 4. Yeah, absolutely. Malawak. Is that how you say it? Malawak. Okay, see, right away with the pronunciations. There's a lot of names I can't pronounce. Alternatively, any player with an unpronounceable name. Yeah, that would be option 2. I say Maluch because it makes me think of Mooch. Just the name, when I see it written down, it makes me think of Mooch from Chicago Fire. That's why I say it. I explained that on a show weeks ago. He'll always be Mooch, even though that's nowhere near. It just looks like Mooch to me. So Maluch is what I say. Adam sees Morley. It's not even Morey anymore. It's Morley. Wasn't Morley like Val Venus's other name? Doing something way different than what everyone is saying. Well, what would be that, Adam? What would be that completely out of left field move that Daryl Morey can make? I'm not even sure. Since we last talked basketball on this show, we've seen Kevin Durant get traded, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, C.J. McCollum. There's rumors that Jaylen Brown is available. I'm not saying for the Sixers, but there are teams making big moves, clearing salary cap space, getting under tax aprons. The Sixers, meanwhile, want to run it back. And see, my thing is, I see all these trades happening around the NBA, all these teams getting rid of salary. They see that maybe 3 big stars isn't the way to run a team, drafting young talent. And here's Daryl Morey wanting to keep to the process of the only way you can win is with 3 big stars, which I think the NBA Finals prove that that's not necessary. Would love to hear Sean's take on the Johnson's defense. He's a guy that can potentially scale up on D and defend 1-3. Well, if I re-comment that when Sean gets on at 8:30, and I'll remember to ask him that. We don't correct all mistakes with the 3rd pick. We don't correct any mistakes with the 3rd pick, but you could take a step forward. You could change the trajectory of this team. I still, like Rick would say, have no issue using that 3rd pick to get off of Paul George or get off of Joel Embiid, trading back with a team. I'm not against that. That would help this team take a step forward, big picture. I know there's a lot of casual Sixers fans or a lot of young Sixers fans that think as long as they're healthy, because of Boston and because of Pacers, all these guys missing stars, maybe Giannis is on the move, that the Eastern Conference is right there for the Sixers to win next year. It's not. The Sixers will not contend for the Eastern Conference next year, no matter who else gets added to the Sixers, but also no matter what else happens in the Eastern Conference. It's not happening. Even without Tatum, Boston's still a better team than the Sixers. So I have zero confidence in that. And the third pick is realistically a pick for the future. That's what you're doing with it. If the Thunder offered you a shit ton of picks, including the Sixers' own pick next year, to move up, would you consider it? So hold on. They obviously got the last pick in the draft. So the last pick in the draft and multiple future first-round picks, can they include one of their young players that's got championship experience now? Can they include Isaiah Joe? I'm just kidding on Isaiah Joe. I would consider it. Absolutely. I have everything on the table tonight. If I'm Daryl Morey, if I'm in Daryl Morey's shoes, every team gets a message or a phone call from me saying, do you want pick 3? Do you want Joel Embiid? Do you want Paul George? All 3 questions are asked to every single team in the NBA tonight. And the best deal, I'll accept. I'm prepared to move the third pick, Clippers pick, and McCain or Maxey and Paul George for the Greek Freak. So you want the Greek Freak. Again, not a crazy idea. Clippers pick and McCain or Maxey and McCain. So one of the two, I would lean towards, Maxey I think could get you more. And Paul George for the Greek Freak. Yeah, go for it. So you're talking about 2 picks. McCain, Maxey, and Paul George for it. It's a lot. There are some fun guys in the mid-teens, like Noah Stern, Thomas Stern. I haven't done any research on any of those guys. I would trade the third pick for Chet Holmgren. Yeah. It's on the table. Why don't you want to take a player? I didn't say I don't want to take a player, okay? I'm just bringing out all the different scenarios. My problem with drafting Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson, BJ Edgecombe at pick 3 is the Sixers are telling us they're going to contend for the Eastern Conference next year. None of those guys help you contend for the Eastern Conference. And I don't trust Daryl Morey. It's not that I don't want to take a player. If Ace Bailey would have come and not shown that he was an idiot, and immature and has a bad team around him, I was all in on Ace Bailey at 3. For the future, for 2-3 years down the line. I also don't trust Nick Nurse to play whoever they take at number 3 regularly, consistently. It took months into the season before Jarrett McCain was getting regular minutes when everybody wasn't hurt. Fit in 2025 should not matter in this draft. I agree, 1,000%. This draft isn't about winning a championship next year. It's not. This offseason shouldn't be. This offseason should be pump the brakes, reset. You don't got to rebuild. You don't got to start a whole process over, but you got to do something different. And right now, they're not doing anything different. The Sixers should be preparing 27-28. Absolutely agree. 1,000%. That would include trading Tyrese Maxey potentially. OKC would. No, I know they wouldn't. I'm prepared to trade the third pick to the Rockets for some guy. Houston would not do it. What do we think of the Houston Rockets trade for Kevin Durant? Giving up 2 young players and a first-round pick. I forget what the pick was. For Kevin Durant. I said the Suns won that trade. Then others kind of said no, the Rockets did because they gave up the lesser of their young talented players. I don't know. They got off of Kevin Durant. They got 2 players and a draft pick. The guy didn't want to be there. I thought that was a pretty fair trade for Phoenix. They get off the bad contract. They get young players and they get a pick. Is this Mitchie Poo's a new burner account? No, I don't want Kyle Lowry back. If you're not Mitchie Poo, then you must be Mitchie Poo's twin brother. This is a tough poll question. I said somewhat confident. Morey's made some really good picks. He has in the 20s. Not at pick 3. Pick 3 is when you make big, bold, life-changing, franchise-changing decisions. Normally, when he has a franchise-changing decision, it's not good. Why wouldn't OKC do it? They can't pay everyone. Well, until they can't pay everybody, they're going to keep him. They're going to try to run it back. I'm a Toronto Lowry fan. Look, Kyle Lowry, Philadelphia legend. But you know what? Lowry is 64 years old, and I limped down the stairs to my studio this morning. He's limping a lot more than me. We don't need no Kyle. Kyle Lowry needs to get into coaching or something like Guys, and guys, please hit that like button, hit that share, and that subscribe button, and vote on our poll question. We got Sean Barnard coming on in about 15, 20 minutes. We're going to get his expert opinion on all this that we're talking about here. But I don't see, hold on, let me rephrase that. Let me pump the brakes. If you stay at 3, is there that much a difference between the ceiling and the floor as, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the players that are going to be available? Is Ace Bailey that much bigger of a ceiling than Maluch? I'm still going to call him that. Concanoopel. Is there that much of a difference between Ace Bailey and those guys? And do you want a Rutgers guy? You had on Rutgers 2 guys that are going to get drafted in the top 3 or 4 on a losing program. Or you got 2 Dukies that come from a winning organization that are groomed to win. What do you want? Do you want winners on your team or overconfident losers? OKC will trade George $20 million when they want to free up the cap, not Chet. That's a possibility. What would your reaction be if you take Ace? My reaction would be, my first comment would be, I hope the Sixers organization find a way to help him mature quickly. Because everything we've heard over the last week or 2 about Ace Bailey just shows one of 2 things. He's extremely immature, but he is 18 years old. And I don't know how old you are, but when I was 18, I was damn immature. And B, hopefully they can help him change whoever the voices are in his head. You know, I hear voices in my head. They come to me. They understand. No, they're coming to him and giving him bad advice. So hopefully the people in the Sixers organization, maybe Tyrese Maxey or, God forbid, Joel Embiid or Paul George, get in his ear and teach him how to grow. That's the problem with the Sixers. Who's going to be that leader, that group? Like, we used to have Tobias Harris. Say what you want about Tobias Harris, but Tobias Harris constantly took the rookies under his wing, taught them how to be pros. Who's going to do that to an immature Ace Bailey on this team? Morey probably trade the 3rd pick and bring back Jimmy Butler. Yeah, I mean, at least I'd be able to rock my Butler jersey again. Would you trade Paul George, 3rd pick, and McCain for Jaylen Brown? What's Jaylen Brown's? How many more years is left on Jaylen Brown's contract? I know we got 3 years of Paul George. Is Jaylen Brown the same? 3 picks, 3 years left? Because I would consider that. I would heavily consider that, Marshawn. Actually, the only problem with that, no, you know what? No, yes, I would do that. I would do that, Marshawn, 100%. Ace Bailey needs Kyle Lowry to fix him. Well, if you draft Ace Bailey, maybe you need to bring back Kyle Lowry, even though that breaks my heart even saying that. They need somebody to help him mature because he's just an immature 18-year-old. The dumb shit I think of that I did when I was 18, but I didn't have an NBA career in front of me. Whoever picked his management team, whether it was his parents or him or both, picked the wrong guys. Anthony, I would not trade the 3rd pick. We don't need another old, injured, aging player on this team making too much money. Plus, you would have to give up something, and I don't think anybody would take anything for. Maybe they would. Paul George and Brown both have long and expensive contracts. Yeah, we know Paul George has got 3 left. Maybe Brown's got 4. I don't know. But you know what? I would do it. You put Jaylen Brown with Maxey, maybe McCain. Maybe Joel Embiid. If Joel Embiid plays 50 games and you have Maxey and Brown, if you keep Quentin Grimes, you know what? I've heard worse ideas. Would you trade the 3rd pick and Paul George for Butler and Kuminga? Caveat: Sixers have to pay him. I don't want to. I'm a big Jimmy Butler fan. I've always loved Jimmy Butler. Always have. But I'm over the Jimmy Butler back in Philly thing. I want him to retire so I can wear my Butler jersey again. Not the other way around. I don't want him brought back so I can wear it again. So that's a no. I would take the Brown deal over this deal easily. Trade the whole team in front office for a backup. That's the thing. I mean, this team is just going to keep losing as long as Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse are in charge and Josh Harris still owns his team. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. I would give you a kiss. for a super chat. I just want to get Paul George off this team. I hear you on that. I do. But in theory, Paul George, if healthy, can still be a player. If healthy, I would take Paul George at this point over Jimmy Butler. That's just my opinion in this situation. Jimmy Butler's just past his time. I mean, Paul George might be too. There we go. Why? Like, share, subscribe, vote on the poll, guys. That's what we do. There's 9 likes on this video right now. Not good enough. Got to hit those like and share and subscribe buttons, guys. Please, and vote on the poll. I still go with Marshawn's trade first. 3 McCain and George for Jaylen Brown. I don't know if Boston would take that. That's the only other caveat to that. I don't know if Boston would want more, probably. I know I see the rumor floating around about Jaylen Brown for Bam Bayou, and other stuff. I don't know. Right now, leading this poll is Daryl Morey is a disgrace with 50% of the vote. 10% say complete confidence. 20% say both, somewhat confident and minimal confident. It's beginning to sound more and more like there won't be much of a reason to watch Sixers games next season. There's a chance the Sixers become the Flyers in the city, the cast-offs. The Flyers are making moves, and there's rumors that there's more moves to come. The Sixers are this close to becoming the Flyers, the ugly stepchild of this city. Adam, again, thank you. Hold on. We'll give you a nice big round of applause for that one. Thank you. Cannot say that enough. And on a side note, real quick, obviously we know about the football, right? We know that we're raffling off this Eagles football signed by Cooper DeJean and Darius Slade, but being added to the raffle, thanks to Jim, an A.J. Brown framed signed print. So now we got 2 huge prizes to raffle off as we get closer to the NFL season. Right there, 2 great autograph prizes. We're going to do a raffle. We're going to raise money for Eagles Autism. So you got to be subscribed to the channel to find out how to win these great prizes. We need a Mitchkoff call-in. Yeah? Maybe. We do know how to take, I do sort of know how to take call-ins now. But I got to come up with a fake phone number so you guys don't all get my number, like a Google phone number. So at some point this summer, we're going to start taking call-ins on this show. Just so you know. That's how we do it. That's what we're going to do. But anyway. I am concerned that the Sixers are going to fall to, like we said, to this Flyers level. I am. I don't want the Sixers to become irrelevant in this city completely. I still want to see Joel Embiid play at a high level for the Sixers. I still want to see Tyrese Maxey get his love of the game back. I want to see all this. But I don't have the faith. I don't have the confidence. Go, one more, 548. We finally got off of that 540 number, and we started to pick up some momentum this week. I've watched so many Trevor Zegers videos since the trade went down. Him and Mitchkoff are going to be amazing together. Isn't he more like in like a prove it kind of year for him? Isn't that like kind of, I saw a couple of people say it's like a very Howie Roseman type trade or move for a guy on a prove it deal. So we'll see. Maybe while I'm on vacation next week, I'll do a little Flyers research and do a Flyers show. I want the Flyers to own this town again. The Flyers never owned this town. But there were points in time where the Flyers, I mean, we always say paint the city red for the Phillies. The Flyers have painted this town orange plenty of times. When the Flyers are going, there is nothing more exciting than a good Flyers team. Okay, and the third pick is So Sixers. We are first in line to pick out of the discount bin. Look, I don't think Cooper Flagg on this Sixers team would actually be really good. But Cooper Flagg's never going to be the number 1 star on the team. Him going to Dallas at 1 is a great spot for him. He doesn't have to be the star there. When Kyrie comes back, and I think I saw Either it's rumored or he did sign a 3-year extension with Dallas. You got Kyrie. You got Anthony Davis. He'll be the third guy there. I wish Howie was running the Sixers too. I wish, but he's not. Flyers never own this town. When Flyers hockey gets going, it's a special city. But no, they never own this. They've always been the third or fourth in this town. Insanely talented, but didn't put it all together with the Ducks. He's going to be great with the Flyers. Well, time will tell. It's the first of hopefully several moves that he makes, Danny Briere, this offseason. In the early 70s, the Flyers were the only team that didn't suck. I mean, it's before our time, though. Before our time. I wish the Sixers at least consulted with Howie. Yeah. You know, I mean, it would be great. It would be great. I would have more. The question on the poll question is your confidence level with Daryl Morey. I bet you the confidence level would be higher with the Eagles GM, Howie Roseman, having no idea on how the NBA works. I'd be more confident in him. Flyers owned the ladies of this town in the 90s. Well, was it the 90s or later? Because I know Richardson and Carter owned the ladies, that's for sure. Josh Harris, you truly suck. Sell the team to Jeffrey. I mean, you can rag on Daryl Morey all you want, but Joshua Harris is the number one issue with this team. The Legion of Boom, was it the Boom or Doom? Legion of Boom, yes. Michael Renberg, John LeClaire, and Eric Lindros. I mean, that was big. And then you can go after that era. You can go to the Keith Primo era. We were making deep runs in the playoffs every year. We didn't get there. They were like the Sixers back then. The Sixers should at least consult with Bob Myers. You know what? If Bob Myers is not consulting on the Sixers right now, that's just another big miss from Daryl Morey or Joshua Harris. Joshua Harris, if he cared, would be like, Bob, at least go talk to him. Go have a meeting with him. Give some of your ideas. You don't want the job? Fine. We're going to leave Daryl Morey there? Fine. But at least go consult. You're not adding anything to the Washington Commanders. Go consult. Legion of Doom, too much posted. Yeah. It's all good. Rick Tocchet and Lindros own the ladies. Did Tocchet and Lindros do that too? I don't remember. But I remember Richardson Carter always down the Jersey Shore. You know, there's probably quite a few illegitimate babies that were born to their hijinks down the Jersey Shore. Rod Brindamore was probably my favorite Flyer growing up as a kid. Honestly, no doubt about it that was my favorite Flyer growing up as a kid. But that's another subject right there. Loved Rod Brindamore. Then he went to Carolina, and it pissed me off so much. But we're not here to talk Flyers. Flyers are not the important thing right now. I would trade the third pick and matching salaries for LaMelo Ball. I don't know about that. Okay, I don't know if I would go that far. I mean, LaMelo Ball is nice, but where does Charlotte pick? Are they 5, 6, 7, somewhere around there? Charlotte is 4. Nah, yeah, they're not going to flop 3 and 4 and match now. I'm out on that one. I can't remember the last time I was excited. Peanut, you're right. The Sixers have sucked the life and energy out of us. They have. And that's why my confidence level is so low in this team right now. You would do 3 and whatever matching salaries and just not pick in the first round for LaMelo Ball. That's kind of crazy. I don't even know if you're serious or not. It's crazy idea. I don't agree with it at all, but it's crazy idea. I don't think I'd go for that. Sorry. I don't think I'd get behind that one at all. But I do like the Jaylen Brown one you mentioned. I have no problem doing the Jaylen Brown trade, even though it's helping the Celtics out. Look at the Celtics. Jason Tatum, out for the year. You still got other talented players. And they're like, you know what? Screw it. We're going to reset. We're going to use this season as a reset. We're not going to waste time. We're going to trade everybody away and rebuild for the next run. And I wonder if that has to go towards the fact that these teams have seen what the Thunder and Pacers did to get to the NBA Finals. Maybe the Celtics see you don't need 3 stars to get to the NBA Finals. Tatum and some young players might be the way to go. And the Sixers aren't thinking that way. The Sixers need to find another team that doesn't buy into that new theory that stars aren't needed, that you can win if you develop a great team. Hell, Nick Nurse did exactly what the Thunder and the Pacers did. He won his one championship with Kawhi Leonard and a bunch of young stars, young rising stars that became stars elsewhere. Not superstars, but stars. Nick Nurse knows you don't need 3 superstars to win a championship. One helps, absolutely. And having the better one, SGA over Tyrese Halliburton. And shout out to Halliburton for playing through and then tearing his quad. What was with players tearing their quads in the not quads, their Achilles in the playoffs? You Dame, him, and who's the other one I missed? And Tatum. All out for the year next year. It's crazy. All wear number 0. All tore their Achilles in the playoffs. Kind of sick. But you need one big player, one big star player, one elite scorer, and then a lot of great players around them. That's how you win. Teams win. Not 3-headed monsters. So when those 3-headed monsters go down, you've got nothing left. The Sixers are stuck in a position where they can't even pay Grimes and Yabusele because they got so much money committed to their big 3. But yet, the Sixers are staying with this theory and process instead of seeing. Like, Howie Roseman would have seen this change coming and would have already pivoted to it. The Sixers aren't being proactive. They're not even being reactive. They're like, you know what? No. I'm so damn stubborn, we're going to stick with what works. Supposedly. But it doesn't work. And that's the problem. Guys, you're watching Trend in the AM. If you haven't yet, like, share, subscribe, and vote on the poll question right now. Very shortly, we'll have Sean Barnard joining us here. It's draft night. Maybe Nick Nurse wants to have average team with no superstars, but Morey won't allow him to. It's not average. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need, you can have a great team with a lot of great role players and one star. At least that's what the proven commodity, the proven way of winning this year in the NBA. That's all I'm saying. And maybe I think Nick Nurse wanted to get fired at the end. I said it. He looked like a guy that checked out a long time ago. We'll see. We'll see how it plays. We got our second vote, finally, on the complete confidence answer on this poll question. It's kind of crazy because I got 0 confidence in the guy. 0. 0 confidence in him. Good morning, Little G. Sorry, the Eagles are taking a back burner this week. It's NBA draft night. We got to see how the Sixers can screw this up the most. And there's a great question. How can they screw it up? Run it back. Good morning, Rick. Is a huge mistake. The 3 pick and get out. I agree. I agree. And you see a lot of NBA teams now. The Celtics, the Suns. A lot of teams are moving off of big contracts this offseason, clearing up that space, clearing up the luxury tax. Now, I'm not saying they have to. But there is a scenario where it's the right way to go. I don't think they will. And I think they will be wrong. You can see the change in the winds. All right? Like your compass, your sails on your boat. You can see the winds changing on how to build a championship team. But Daryl Morey's so damn stubborn. He is going to win the old school style. It's just not going to work. Good morning, Bruce. How you doing today? Hope you are well. Morey's behind the curve, not ahead of it. Yeah, way behind. Howie Roseman sets the curve. Okay? He changes the league. And not everyone's Howie Roseman. But you better, at the very least, react instantly to these changes. I hope we don't get Bailey, as I feel he will cause big problems. And Edgecombe is good, too. Yeah, I mean, Edgecombe, we're going to talk about that with Sean Barnard here momentarily when he jumps in. But we got to understand, no matter who they take, Bailey, Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, they trade back a little bit. None of these guys are going to change the Sixers' their season next year. They're just not. Bailey is everything that's wrong with today's NBA. Well, we're going to get into that right away here because, guys, you're watching Training the AM. Like, share, subscribe. Please vote on our poll question. Your comments level with Daryl Morey, because now joining me on the I Have No Sponsor hotline, the one, the only Sean Barnard. Good morning, Sean. How you doing on this great NBA draft morning?
Yeah, good morning, Phil. It is the best day of the NBA season to me. The draft season is that fun. It is my favorite time of the year. I love getting into each and every one of those guys. I won't lie, I've been burning it on both ends a little bit, so taking a toll. I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel that today is the day, but excited to get into all of it.
Well, you obviously do a lot of work studying a lot of these players, and you know a lot of these players, and there's a lot of comments, including the last one. Bailey is everything wrong with the NBA today. So let's just dive right into Ace Bailey, who is presumably going to be the third pick, whether with the Sixers or someone else trades up. What are your thoughts on Ace Bailey, not the player, but the person that we're obviously seeing a lot of immaturity with, in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I'll start with that. I would push back that I don't think it's likely he's the third pick at this point. I think the Sixers do sit and make a pick and that Bailey falls down the board. And I think it could be a little bit steeper than a lot of people are I guess, acknowledging at this point. And the Ace Bailey conversation as a whole, he is a guy that there's like legitimate questions about his game. That I do think he's the third most talented player. Got a chance to see him live and in person at Rutgers. Have some fairly good intel about him as a person. And I want that to be very clear as well, that he is a good kid. He is a good teammate. He's a guy that players like playing with from a personality standpoint. He's fun. He's exciting. He has good personality, but he's getting some incredibly bad advice right now. And as far as like to connect these dots, the agent that he's working with is Sharif Cooper's dad. I'm not sure if you remember Sharif Cooper, old guard at Auburn, short little guard, and another guy who had draft issues, that he was probably a first-round talent. His size made it a little bit difficult, those conversations, but he ultimately slipped pretty far in the draft for doing a lot of these same things. That Ace Bailey has not worked out for a single NBA team to this point here, and he's very clearly trying to control and get to a spot where he can be the guy from day one. I don't love that attitude. And the problem from the Sixers perspective is if you can get this archetype of player, a guy like Ace Bailey, to buy in and just be a low usage guy, catch and shoot threes, play good defense, impact the game in the little ways from day one, and then add things year in and year out, that's exactly the guy they should be looking for. The problem being, I don't think Ace Bailey has that mindset whatsoever. I do think he has bad advice in his ears. And it's a pretty short-sighted view, in my opinion. So I think Ace Bailey's costing himself a lot of money, costing himself the right situation, and I do think the Sixers go a different direction.
So real quick, to stick to the Ace Bailey, if he was to go to the Sixers, he's obviously got, like you said, whoever's in his ear, his agent and his whole management team. Yeah, I'm sure you saw his interviews yesterday about saying, he was just kind of skipping over and, pushing the questions aside and stuff like that. The Sixers got Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey's still a pretty young player by all accounts, if you really think about it. Paul George has got the drama and he's got the podcast, and Joel Embiid is, still to an extent the troll Joel. Ace Bailey, wherever he goes to succeed, to grow up, to mature as an NBA player, needs to go to a team that at least has a leader that's going to take him under the wing. I don't even think coming to the Sixers might be best for Ace Bailey, because who's going to take him unless they bring back Kyle Lowry? Someone commented about that earlier. Bring him back as your 15th guy to be that, player coach kind of mature, help him mature thing. I don't know how he would even mature if he came to the Sixers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not taking it as a better bet down in Charlotte or Utah, to be perfectly honest, as far as or Washington, maybe, like the maturity things. There's a reason that these teams are picking at the top of the draft. Would kind of be my pushback here, that all these teams, for various reasons, whether it is just not a good enough roster, whether it was injuries, or whether it was guys getting into trouble, not being available, all these teams are picking near the top of the draft for a reason. So the thing that I think is short-sighted from Ace Bailey's perspective is just in general, it takes wings the longest to develop. That guards and big men are both, it's a far easier pathway to make a day one impact. Like, look at Paul George specifically. Coming out of Fresno State, his first season in the league, he averaged 7.9 points per game. He played less than 20 minutes per game. Kawhi Leonard was a guy that was a 3-and-D type guy through the first several seasons of his career with San Antonio. Jason Tatum was a dude who it took a couple years before his workload, he looked like the guy there. That is just the normal progression for wings. So I think Ace trying to force himself to a spot where he's like being put in the position to be the guy from day one is honestly kind of harmful from a developmental standpoint. And you're right that like the off the court stuff does matter even more to an extent. And guys, like the guys that bust, it often has way more to do with what's up here than anything with their talent. And I'm concerned we're looking down the barrel of that with Ace Bailey to an extent.
No, I agree. Now, so you don't think the Sixers take Ace Bailey at number 3? Are you? What's your confidence level? Not in Daryl Morey, but that the Sixers are staying at 3 and taking whoever it is at 3. Are you very confident that there's no trades that are happening today with the Sixers?
I wouldn't say that. I think the options are they stick and pick at 3 and VJ Edgecombe will be the selection, or they move down the board and try and pick up a couple other picks. Those are kind of the two options I think they go. I think from the start that their priority would have been to trade down. And the other part that I'll point and put on Ace Bailey's shoulders here is his agency cost him direct money in this, because this could have been a teamwork conversation that the Sixers and Ace Bailey could have very clearly sent the message around the league of, if you want Ace Bailey, you have to come through us to get him. For a team like Brooklyn or a team like Utah or Washington, who does want to take that swing on like a franchise centerpiece type guy, that could have been the conversation of the Sixers being like, well, we really like him, so you got to trade to 3 and get him. Let us drop down a little bit. But the cat's kind of out of the bag with him not working out for Philadelphia. They can't really, put that sort of like stance in or kind of hedge their bet a little bit, saying that that's the spot they're in. So ultimately, I do think that there's a little bit too much like smoke at this point that the Sixers are just going to stay away from the Ace Bailey conversation.
Just think about, you mentioned Washington. Washington seems to be one of those teams. How much value is there in the Sixers theoretically trading back? Like, say Washington for that, like what are they, 6, I believe, in the draft. What would even a trade like that look like? Like, what would they even be able to get outside of just 6? I understand trades in the NFL draft very well. I understand the values of trading back and up. I don't understand the NBA draft well enough to understand the value in what a trade like that would equate.
Yeah, it wouldn't be this massive haul that we've seen in past years. And this draft just very consensusly is viewed as pretty much a 2-player draft. That it is clear-cut Cooper Flagg, the number 1 guy, and Dylan Harper, the number 2 guy. Once you get past that point, it's kind of up for debate for what teams think of. So if there's a guy that a team falls in love, that we clearly have him circled as the 3rd best player, that's what would put the Sixers in the driving seat from a trade perspective. But I do think picks 3 through 6, maybe even 3 through 8, are somewhat equal. You can kind of talk yourself into the individual pros and cons of each. So it is going to take a team falling in love there. The teams that I've kind of kept my eye on, both Brooklyn and the New Orleans Pelicans, are more likely trade partners. I feel the Nets have 5 first-round picks in this draft, and I can't see a world where they just make all 5 of those and then go into battle with that next year. I do think they'll be active. They'll be moving around. It's probably for the Sixers to move down, probably picking up like one more additional draft pick and then still making a pick at 6 or whatever. But if maybe we're talking like the Pelicans, if you can bring in a guy like Herb Jones, who they obviously made a pretty significant trade yesterday, New Orleans did, like then you're starting to talk about something that's a legitimate playoff rotation player. And if you can still make a selection, you can talk me into a trade like that.
Yeah, I was going to say Herb Jones with them, or you obviously have heard the Cam Johnson rumors with the Nets and stuff like that. But you've actually seen, the NBA Finals just ended like 12 hours ago. And we've already seen Kevin Durant. We've seen, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, C.J. McCollum. A lot of teams are making a lot of deals to get under the tax apron and different things. And maybe also in my mind seeing that you don't need to have the 3-star style to win or get to an NBA Finals. What do you make of, are these moves strictly financial moves, or do you see like maybe a change in the winds with the NBA and that they're not thinking about just acquiring the biggest stars at all times?
Yeah, a little bit of both. For starters, like the new CBA is absolutely more impactful than anyone I can ever remember in the NBA, and that teams are being driven by financial decisions more so than ever. Boston's the clear-cut example of this. If they had to shed Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis to get under the second apron, just that trade, that Drew Holiday trade, saved them $40 million directly off the luxury tax payments, and they had to go deeper by making this Porzingis trade. So there's a lot more being driven by finances than I can think of before. That's league-wide. That is true. I do think it's also true to the perspective of a little bit of a mindset shift from a roster construction standpoint. There is a takeaway from the Indiana Pacers making deep playoff run. There is a takeaway from the Thunder not skipping steps and doing the rebuild properly here, that a lot of teams have tried to hop the line with these superstar additions and just signing the best player, that I do think that there's a little bit something to a team like the Pacers, once again, who you get that player who may not be a top 5 guy or a top 8 guy, but what he is an infectious style of athlete there that you can play his style. You can find guys to complement it. Obviously, they had great success. So I think there's a little bit of more of that, teams leaning that direction.
Somebody you bring up Boston and shedding salaries, and obviously there's rumors that they also want to get away from Jaylen Brown at some point this offseason. Someone in the chat before you joined brought up the idea of the Sixers using pick 3, Paul George's contract, and someone like Jarrett McCain to get Jaylen Brown here. And it did intrigue me. But on the flip side, that goes to the old style of thinking that you need 3 stars, and you'd be pairing Maxey and Embiid with Jaylen Brown instead of Paul George. And I don't see that as the way to build a winner anymore. So that brings up the conversation. Is there, because Rick's said it 5 times already, he says it every single show in the chat, use pick 3 to get off of Paul George or Joel Embiid if possible. Do you think that's even remotely, I know Daryl Morey has said publicly, we are running it back and then we're going to figure out the rest. Is there even a slightest thought that this has crossed Daryl Morey's mind to use that to facilitate a trade?
To a trade, yes, but not to get off contracts like that. And I don't think he should, be perfectly honest. Like, I'll start with saying this from the building a championship conversation, that there is no one blueprint to build a winner, that every team looks different with that. And I do think it's a copycat league for the way that things happen. Then you watch a 3-star league, a 3-star team win a championship, and every team says we need to build like that. Then you watch Nikola Jokic be the clear-cut best player with just role players around him, and you say that's the style. Then you watch the Boston Celtics win just by shooting an insane amount of 3-pointers, and everyone in the league says, okay, we need to do that. I think every team has different strengths and weaknesses for what is the blueprint for success for them. Now, as far as the trade conversation here, I'm not going to sit up here and lie and say it was a great season by Joel Embiid and Paul George last year. But what I will say is I do think it shoots yourself in the foot from an organizational standpoint if you're paying to get off guys like that. It's fair if your mind is completely closed and they can win with these guys. But if it costs you getting a impact player at 3 or getting a guy that does help you build for the future just to move on from them, I don't see the appeal in that, to be perfectly honest. Like, even in this specific case, to me, it makes way more sense to make the selection at 3. Another year goes off the contract of these guys. It gets more tradable and more tolerable from other teams' perspective, and you still get that impact player. I would be completely against that just from the stance of that sacrificing a chance to add a guy, which should be the clear-cut number 1 priority to me.
No, I called it. I brought this topic. I told everybody I would ask you, and I said that was exactly going to be your answer. I knew. And look, I get it. And I still think that if you really did want to get off of one of those guys, as you see, even Kevin Durant on the last year of his deal, Kevin Durant is still obviously a better player than Joel Embiid or Paul George at this point based off of last year. But there is a trade market for if you really wanted to trade Paul George, you could find somebody that has expiring contracts that would take him for you. You don't have to include the 3rd pick to do that. I just don't see these guys being those impactful players. I just don't. I don't see Ace Bailey. I don't see VJ Edgecombe. I see him being a nice player, maybe not. Trey Johnson. I think it was Dives earlier said he's really high on Trey Johnson right now. I just don't see the value. Someone said before, I think it was Tim said, trade 3 to the Nets and take 8, 22, and 26. I see more value in doing that than anything else at this point.
I think Daryl Morey would do that if that specific offer was on the table here. But the other part that I think is in the back of everyone's mind here is we just went through a season from hell. We just went through the worst Sixers season of my entire lifetime that I can ever remember relative to expectations there. And to go through all that and then just not make a selection, to not take that guy, I do think is something that is it's kind of tough to swallow there. So with having the 3rd pick, you have a chance to take the 3rd best player in this draft, the guy that you view. And I do find it a little bit hard to believe that after all this time, there isn't one guy that Daryl Morey fell in love with and believes. They obviously have had Edge come in for workouts, took him out to dinner with Tyrese Maxey. I kind of think that Daryl has a guy in mind. I do think it's Edgecombe, and that will be the selection. But it is fair to assess that not one guy is going to turn around the Sixers franchise. I also will note here, I think the youth movement has already started with this team, that we're seeing what Jared McCain does. We're seeing what Tyrese Maxey does. Guys like Justin Edwards, guys like Adem Bona, Quentin Grimes, still 24 years old that they traded for and have every intention of re-signing here. This is another key piece to this. So while this may not be the guy specifically, he's going to be a big part of this puzzle. And I think people are still underselling, VJ Edgecombe specifically is a guy I believe in.
So, obviously Daryl Morey is more of a swing for the fences kind of guy. He's we've already seen him multiple times in his career trade for James Harden and do things like that. He's a big, bold kind of guy. There are other superstars available out there. And yes, trading for a superstar would obviously require matching salaries like a Paul George. Someone before you joined the show brought up Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jaylen Brown, these names. Not using number 3 to get off one of those contracts, but using number 3. Daryl Morey has had success in the draft with Maxey and McCain, but that was later in the draft, not at this top spot of the draft. And I'm not even sure whether he ever had top picks like this with Houston, Daryl Morey.
Has it?
I don't think he's ever been in this place before, so we have no real data on whether he can evaluate the top tier talent. Do you think Daryl Morey's thinking, swing for the fences again, go for another major superstar to pair with Joel and Tyrese Maxey or Paul George or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, that matches Daryl's track record to an extent for sure there, but I do think the situation is a little different here. That in that case, if you're going to take that type of swing, to me, I feel like you're already all in and you're just sort of doubling up again. We know what the status is, that all of the conversations for this specific upcoming Sixer season are dependent on, can Joel Embiid bounce back? Can Paul George play at an improved level? That's the gambles that you're making here. And I think like taking that type of swing doesn't change that. That's still the bet. So to me, like, obviously Kevin Durant just got traded, but there was some of the conversations with Durant. To trade more to bring in Durant over Paul George, to me, didn't make any sense, because the gamble still there is whether or not Joel Embiid will be healthy and can he bounce back. So I kind of feel like you already have a risky enough bet on the table here. Just don't overthink it and make that type of move. If there is like the superstar swing that I do think makes a little bit of sense there, that would be moving up to 2 and getting Dylan Harper for me. And why I say that is because let's say it is worst case scenario. The Joel Embiid, the version of Joel Embiid we have seen in the past is never coming back. That Paul George, there is no bouncing back. What is the pathway to this team getting like a number 1 star? Because as much as I love Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, I'm still not certain those guys can be the best player on a championship contender. And frankly, I would probably lean towards they probably cannot be if you pin me down and made me say that there. Dylan Harper is a guy that I do think is capable of it. And is a guy that checks a lot of the Daryl Morey boxes, gets the free throw line a ton, that he's incredibly mature in his processing of the game. He can snake a pick and roll as well as any college guard that I've ever seen here. And he's got some James Harden similarities as well. So if there is this big time swing, I kind of more would expect it to be to try and jump up to 2, which there's been reports with San Antonio, than trying at another veteran at this point in the game.
I mean, you think of it this way. I mean, the Sixers, and this is a great point from Tim, because, McCain and Maxey are smaller guards. Dylan Harper's at least, I think he's listed 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, 6'5".
Like at least you would add some length to we have a lot of young talent at the guard position with potential, but they're all small. And in this day and age in the NBA, you need long, athletic guys that can run, can play defense. We definitely lacked some of that at the guard position, even if it's not Dylan Harper, if it's BJ Edgecombe, because I think BJ would end up being our biggest guard, even if he was the draft pick at 3. Are you concerned about the size, no matter what they do at 3 there, that we'd be playing in the front court?
Yeah, obviously in an ideal world that it is balanced and you have a little bit more size there, but I do think the preference is still take the best talent and figure it out as things cross there. I will say, like, for the guy that should be looking over his shoulder from a long-term perspective, if they do draft Edgecombe, would be Quentin Grimes, in my opinion here, that I think the likely outcome, and it won't happen at the start, that I think they should be happy that Grimes is back. You got to sort through how much of that was real in that sort of second half of the season run and what is like a proper role for this guy moving forward. But I do think to project forward that I would not move on from Maxey McCain pretty much under any circumstances at this point in the game. I do think Edgecombe is going to be like a superior talent in contrast to Grimes. And I think that they probably try and flip Grimes for some sort of front court guy down the line here. But I mean, again, it isn't ideal. Like, I wish there was more balance, but you take the talent and figure things out from here is sort of my message to that.
I love that you say that. Like, what really is Quentin Grimes? Because Quentin Grimes put up a lot of numbers, but it was a bad team. You know what I mean? And then the stars weren't here, and we were losing a lot of those games despite that. And obviously they seem likely to bring Grimes back, but I love the idea of maybe bringing him back and then using him to trade at some point. Obviously, Grimes and Yabusele. Is there any market to do a sign and trade with Yabusele? Because it seems like Yabusele is going to be the odd man out that doesn't. I know they want to bring him back, but financially, it's probably not possible at this point, especially if you're going Grimes. Is there, are you okay with that situation, keeping Grimes and letting Yabusele walk, knowing that our back?
I mean, the biggest difference in situation for these two guys is that Grimes is a restricted free agent, and then Gershon is unrestricted, meaning the Sixers have a chance to match any offer sent in Grimes' direction. They have his bird rights, so they pretty much are in the driver's seat for making that re-signing. Not the same situation with Yabusele, and they're pretty tight from an apron and tax perspective here, that there are teams that can just straight up outbid the Sixers to a level that they won't be able to match and legally offer to him at this point. So that's kind of what the way that things sit with that. San Antonio does seem to be the team that is trending towards having interest in Yabusele, and that's probably my prediction for where he ends up. He obviously played with Victor Wembanyama in the Olympics on Team France there, and frankly was the best player on the floor for Team France for the majority of that Olympics, which is crazy to say there. So it sucks that like they really nailed it on a minimum guy that you took a chance on with Yabusele. He didn't really get to fully reap the benefits that it was obviously was a disaster season. We did not get to see this guy in a postseason perspective, and I do think he was the truest power forward that we've had to potentially share the floor with Joel Embiid in several years to this point. So I do think the writing is on the wall. I think Yabusele enjoyed Philadelphia a ton, and if all things were equal, he would be back. But it's tough to pass up the gap in money that seems like it's going to be evident here.
Guys, we're talking with Sean Barnard here. It's NBA Draft Night right here on the STT Sports Network. Please, if you haven't, like, share, and subscribe. Vote on the poll question. So real quick before we wrap this up, I mean, it's kind of hard. Like this question, as I think about this poll question I'm running on the page right now, your confidence level in Daryl Morey tonight, it almost seems like unless he goes and makes a big, bold trade, which we don't think is going to happen, that it's almost like he can't screw it up. It's either draft Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe. You know, both you can make the argument for or against either of them, but it's not like he's going to skip those guys and draft, I don't know, somebody that's ranked 10th or 12th in the draft. Like you can't even ask your confidence level in Daryl Morey because it's such a basic night for him, right?
It is. I mean, if I know anything about the Sixers, that there's always a way for it to get screwed up, and there's always a way that it can go south there. But I do think, like, let's not oversimplify this, and to just give like a little bit of VJ Edgecombe love right now. Like the guy, I do think will be somewhat of a difference maker for this team. That he's going to be immediately their best like perimeter defender. He's a guy who's going to be in the top percentile of athletes at the NBA level from day one. I would say a top 15 percentile. He's willing to get up and dunk, and guys, he shot over 42% off screens on three-pointers. The three-point shot looks legitimate. He's been a high pedigree guy for several years to this point. Everyone knew this kid was NBA bound for several years since he came from the Bahamas to the NBA. And he showed a little bit more at the international level when playing for the Bahamas, that he played on a team with Buddy Hield, Eric Gordon, DeAndre Ayton, and he was the guy on that roster. He ran the whole show, ran the whole offense. And as far as all we talked about Ace Bailey, the exact opposite from personality, that everyone loves this guy. He is bought in. He's focused. He's quiet. He doesn't do too much. He feels like a right mix for this Sixers team, and that is the direction I think they can go. I do wish that he was a little bit bigger in the end, but I think he'll be able to guard up a bit, and he's just 19 years old. So I think he'll fit right in with the Maxey and McCain sort of pairing, and they'll figure out the front court down the line.
Final question before we let you go. Can the Sixers do anything to get the fan base bought back in, whether it's tonight or overall? And I think that's because I right before you joined the show, I said the conversation, you know, the Sixers are dangerously close to falling into that Flyers level of just who cares? I mean, some of us are already in the who cares with the Sixers. Is there anything that can excite the Sixers fan base, whether it's tonight or overall?
It should be making a pick at 3, but I do think this is a very fair point. And I think the Sixers are far closer to that than they want to acknowledge in the first place. That to me, having angry fans is a far better thing than having fans that don't have any emotion there. That you should want people to care. And to this point, I still think for the most part we're getting this. But last year was as like off the map of a Sixer season as I've seen probably my entire lifetime of just there was no interest, there was no caring, and like the fact that there was the expectation coming into the year paired with what the results were on the floor and how dreadful the team was, I think is where it all ties together. But you can only take one step at a time here. So in general, while last year was a disaster, I think Daryl has done a decent job of putting together this team and made a lot of creative and great decisions. His draft track record is very strong in Philadelphia with Maxey and McCain, and even the second-round picks that he's brought in. The guys, the B-ball Pauls, the Isaiah Joes, Ricky Council, Justin Edwards, and Dembona. You can run down the list. He has a good track record for what he's brought in from a draft perspective. So we got to back him out. I hope that tonight adds to that list and that VJ Edgecombe is a little bit more special than people are talking about him as.
Isaiah Joe is an NBA champion right now. So, I mean, that says it all, right?
He sure is.
NBA champion right there. All right, so what's your schedule today? Obviously, I'm assuming you'll be on Fox the Gambler, Sean Brace, all afternoon. Do you have any draft shows tonight or content going on tonight with the draft?
Yeah, you can check out on DraftKings Network. I'll be doing live grades and writing along for them. So we'll have an article being updated throughout the night when every pick goes down. So that's going to be my primary thing. We'll be jumping on Sixers Digest once I am done DraftKings, once the draft is over there. And yeah, as you mentioned, I'll be chopping up with Sean Brace at some point today for sure.
I would assume that. All right. Thank you very much for your time today. Guys, Sean Barnard, make sure you guys are following him. Hardest working young man in the sports business right now. I didn't even get time to ask you about the Phillies today, but we'll save that for another time because I got some Phillies comments too. But Sean, have a good day and get a little extra caffeine in your system today.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be hitting the coffee heavy. So I appreciate it, Phil. Thank you for having me on. And hopefully tonight is a good night in Philly sports.
I hope so. Everybody, thanks very much, Sean. Guys, make sure while you're watching here, you like, you share, you subscribe. Finish voting on the poll. We got about 5 minutes left in the show today. Great stuff from Sean Barnard as always. We did gain a new subscriber, 548. We got 15 likes on the video. Lots of great information as expected. More positive than negative from Sean. And I get it. I still think some of these other things. And Joe, sorry, I didn't get to your question with him. If you trade down to 8, Trey Johnson, sure, yeah, could be there, but again, like Tim said, probably wouldn't be there. Unfortunately, the majority of the fan base has zero confidence in Morey. I, for one, do not trust his decision-making. His incompetence is quite glaring. The Embiid extension. Yeah, Xavier, thanks for commenting. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. I agree. Now, there are a few that are still positive, and you'll have the casual fan saying this team's going to be unstoppable once they add Ace or BJ or whatever. And I just don't believe it. I don't see it. It's tough to have the positive feelings. I get it. But I don't know if there's a move that can be made today outside of drafting Ace or BJ at 3 that can turn this franchise around. I don't think there's not a Joel Embiid trade. There's not a Paul George trade coming. He made mistakes, so he is going to try to fix those mistakes by adding to it, not subtracting from it. And I think it's the wrong way. You see around the league how many teams are, going to try to go away from the 3-star format. But that Daryl Morey's committed to it. Daryl Morey's committed to this big 3, for better or worse. His legacy. We talk about legacy a lot on the show. Daryl Morey's legacy is going to be, finalized this offseason and next season with the results. This is Daryl Morey's last chance. Daryl Morey's committed to this big 3, and for better or worse, we've got to just bitch and moan about it, but accept it because that's where he is. That's what he's going to go with. It's a shame. I'm confident ChatGPT. Yeah, I forgot about that. We didn't get to the AI conversation. Yeah, he does like to use AI for a lot of his stuff. They're a lost franchise, Tim says. They have a center that they want to build around who doesn't play. Yeah, I agree. And this is Daryl Morey's legacy is on this team. And he's going to say, this is the way I think it's going to work. So I'm all in. Yeah, and to an extent, I respect Daryl Morey's confidence in his ideas. The problem is sometimes you got to be told it's not working. It's okay to admit you're wrong. Daryl Morey just won't admit that he is wrong. It is what it is. We're stuck with it. We got to hope that he makes a good decision tonight and doesn't do something stupid. I like Sean Barnard, bringing up the thought process is still on the table. Dylan Harper at 2. I doubt it, but there's that chance. I see them staying at 3. I see them staying at 3 and drafting VJ Edgecombe tonight. That is my prediction. That's how I see it going out. Whether VJ Edgecombe is the right pick or not, only time will tell. But I firmly believe that that's what's going to happen. Here's the other thing. Morey gets all the credit for second-round picks. Those guys are mostly trash. Yeah, and look, and also he gets a lot of credit for Tyrese Maxey and Jarrett McCain picks in the early to mid-20s. Look, a lot of teams passed on those guys. If anything, Daryl Morey lucked himself, backdoored himself into those picks. It's not like he out-scouted everybody else and selected Tyrese Maxey at 2 when he was projected to be at 12. A lot of teams. Giannis wasn't even in the top lottery pick. A lot of star players aren't taking 1, 2, or 3. It happens. You get lucky that everybody else passes up that talent. To an extent. Morey's draft hype is a little overhyped, in my opinion. But anyway, guys, we got to wrap this show up today early. Unfortunately, lots of things at the work. No show tomorrow morning. Huge catering order tomorrow morning as well. But we will be back Friday, recapping the entire NBA draft, talking Phillies, baseball, Eagles, everything else. I will do my best to get back on here on Friday. It's just been a hellacious week work-wise. It is what it is. At least it's happening now, not during the Eagles season. It's okay to miss a few days here or there during the season. But guys, make sure you're liking, you're sharing, you're subscribing. The vote, the poll, the end of the poll. What is your confidence level in Daryl Morey tonight, end of the draft? Complete confidence got 19%. Somewhat confident, 14%. Minimal confidence, 24%. And he is a disgrace, wins the poll at 43%. If you want in-depth sports analysis, start going to see, I go to a El Mexicano barber. So, in Kennett with the Spanish community, they do nice jobs, Anyway, guys, we got to wrap this up. Everybody have a great Wednesday. Stay cool. One more super hot day out there. Go Birds. Bubbles up.